I, you know what? It doesn't go on mute.
Hey, Naomi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, dear?
Oh, I'm cleaning up everything.
Everything?
Well, you know how I am. I have a million things, so I'm organizing.
Okay. That's not a bad thing, you know. I mean,
You're very organized.
yeah.
Have you always been like that?
Well, I wouldn't, I'm kind of organized in some things.
But you're very organized. You're very neat.
Well, I can be methodical about things, you know. I have a way of doing, you know, and that's it, you know. I mean, that's just what it is.
Do you think all painters, good painters, are like that?
No.
No?
No. If you get to know a lot of different artists, they're all over the place. I mean, you have people who are very, very organized and very methodical, you know, kind of like me. And then you also have those people who are just like all over the place. I mean, you walk into their studio and it just, to you, it looks like chaos, you know, but, you know, they seem to know where everything is, you know, and how to get to whatever it is that they need or want. And so again, you know, it's like there's a wide variety out there, different people and different approaches to things. So, I mean, for me, I look around the studio right now, and you know, it's in a bit of chaos. Okay, I mean, it's not overwhelmingly bad, but it's, you know, it's a bit chaotic. And so, yeah, probably sometime this week, I'm gonna go through things and try to organize it, clean it up a little bit, so I can keep working. Because chaos to me is distracting. You know, that's just me. So I have a hard time working in an environment like that. So, how about you?
Me?
Yeah, I mean,
it's disturbing.
mm-hmm.
But I have another question. Do most good artists are very careful and slow and not crazy and fast like me?
Again, yeah, it varies wildly. You know, I mean, everybody's kind of, you know, everybody's kind of got their own way of doing it. And you know, if fast and crazy and, you know, is your approach, then that's your approach. That's okay.
I'm trying to slow down, but you know what? You know, I've been with you since 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Do you realize that?
Yeah.
So I'm trying so hard to slow down, and I'm looking at older paintings and I see what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I wouldn't rush, take my time, I would be a better artist. That's what I'm working on.
Okay.
I think it depends on the medium you're using too now. If you're like with pencils and that, you can go faster, but I think if you're using like an oil or whatever, you might take a little longer.
Right. Yeah. Well, and Naomi, here's the thing I would say. For you, and I've watched you for a long time, you know, I think you still kind of approach things from when you start something, you want it to turn out the first time.
Right.
And we've talked about this before, and it's like, don't really worry about that at first. You know, get your idea down on a board or a page or whatever, and then set that aside. You know, and you know, then go back and then try to slow down, or then try to do a bigger piece and work out some of the things that you didn't like about, the first piece you did. Try to go back in and pay more attention to maybe proportion or something like that. But, go ahead, allow yourself the freedom to get stuff down there as quickly as you want. And don't really worry about that at first, just treat that as really a study, an idea. And
Oh, so I should not do it on the canvas. I should just do a sketch, kind of. Is that it?
yeah, I mean, it's we've talked about the creative process before, and a lot of you, and not just you, but a lot of artists, and particularly when you're first starting out, everybody's idea is, I'm just going to throw a canvas up there and then I'm going to paint this masterpiece, and it almost never works out.
Right.
Okay. And if you talk to any professional artist, they'll tell you that it's a long process. They'll do like drawings and sketches. And then from the drawings and sketches, they'll develop some color studies. And from the color studies, then they'll develop, kind of a final color sketch. And then from that final color sketch, then they'll do the painting. It's never just a sit down and, get it out there on the paper. And for any professional artists that I've ever known, unless they're doing abstract work, and even people doing abstract work, and I've known quite a bit of them, they still have a process, where they'll do like black and white sketches and look for a composition or something like that, big shapes or values or things, and then they'll develop that, on another, like go to the next thing and develop it further. So there's generally a working process. It's not this just, put it down on the paper and I'm done and let's go hang it in the museum. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I'm trying, but you see, with acrylic, I could make a mistake and I could go back. With my watercolor, I'm very careful.
Yeah, yeah, and it's kind of like John was saying. It depends on the medium.
Yeah.
Yeah, and today it's good that you're here today because we're going to actually look at a couple of different watercolor artists.
Oh, good.
Very different approaches, and I mean very different approaches to creating their artwork. And I'm going to talk a little bit about using drawings and then adding color over them and the different kinds of media and stuff that you can use together and the effects that you'll get. So yeah, we're going to look at all that fun stuff today. It's going to be a very kind of wet into wet day because that's really kind of what it all is. It's pretty much so you're putting down water, you're dropping color in, you're moving it around, manipulating it within shapes and spaces. So yeah. I see that Mr. Armando is here as well. Good morning, Armando.
I think he's getting his breakfast.
Right.
Morning, I'm fixing my breakfast. I'll be back.
Okay. You got a minute.
Well,
Actually, you don't have a minute. It's 8 after already. Wow. Okay. So, I guess spring break and all is kind of, taking people away to other things. Okay. So anyway, I'm gonna jump in here. And how you doing, John?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, that's a nice painting you got behind you. Is that what you're working on now?
Nothing exciting. Another day in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah. Is the painting behind you something you're working on now?
Oh, that's a part of it. Remember I did when we had the orchids in class. Then I did the single one. So this is a few weeks old.
Okay. All All right, so so I'm going to start off. I'll start off talking about me. And I did a couple of little tests, and I'm not, you know, I don't consider myself a watercolor artist. I use it from time to time, and for the most part, you know, I mean, I like it as a medium. For me, I like it as a medium because it's like when I don't really want to take a lot of time and trouble to prepare for like going out and doing plein air work or something. You know, I can grab a box of watercolors, a container, and a little bit of water, and some brushes, and a pad of paper, and go out and work, you know, very quickly. Same thing when I go to a life painting or drawing group, you know, same thing. So it's a very nice kind of spontaneous medium, and there's lots of different ways of working with it. You know, one of the ways that I tend to work with it is, and particularly like in a figure group, something like that, is I'll put down a sketch.
Big pen.
You know, so before I put any color on the paper or anything like that, I'll do a drawing. And then I'll add color to the drawing. And that's usually for a pose that's, you know, 20 minutes or longer, okay? I don't usually do a lot of shorter stuff with watercolor. So what I did is I took an old piece of watercolor paper that, you know, was basically ruined and I couldn't use to watercolor on anyway. And, you know, I did these little sketches real quick in different types of media. Like, for example, this is a ballpoint pen, okay? So this is just your regular old Bic, you know, ballpoint pen. And I just did a quick sketch. And then I put a wash of watercolor over it. Now, notice that when you look at the line work, stuff like that, it's very solid. It doesn't diffuse. So, you know, having water, you know, over that pen is fine. You know, it's not going to move on you. It's not going to go anywhere. The same is true with, now this is a design marker, a design 2 marker to be exact. And, you know, it's just a magic marker, and it's got 2 tips. It's got a broad tip and a fine point on it, or narrow tip. And so this was just real quick drawn out with the narrow tip. And, you know, pretty much so, this probably dried like maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes, you know, and then I went over it with watercolor. And again, you know, it holds up, you know, pretty well. It doesn't diffuse. It doesn't, you know, break down with the water. Okay. Let's skip ahead here. Now, this is a different type of marker. It comes in like a brush pen, and it's a Tombow art pen. And, you know, I put it down. It had about the same amount of time to dry as the design marker and everything else. But you'll notice that, you know, when you put water on it, what does it do? You know, it starts dissolving. And so that's probably not a good pen, you know, to use with watercolor or wet media. And here's the thing, you know, it's like a lot of these markers and things and pens will tell you that they're permanent, but you have to buy 1 or 2 of them. You have to put it down on paper. You got to test it, and, you know, make sure to get the paper nice and wet, you know, and really see what it will do. Now, to be fair, you know, to the markers and things like that, I'll usually put them down, and I'll usually give them at least 10 or 15 minutes to dry. And then I'll work over them and see what happens, okay? A lot of times, pretty much so any marker or pen or anything you put down, And then if you hit it immediately with water before it's really dried, it may bleed and run.
Yeah.
But if you'll be patient, you know, give it, like I said, 10 or 15 minutes to really dry. A lot of these will hold up. This one, no, not so much. Okay. Now here's this is a Pigma Micron Pen, and we've drawn with these at the Benson Center, and it's just they come in different colors like sepia, and this is a black ink, but they're real fine line pens, and they have different point sizes, so you can get thicker and thinner lines and things with it. This was just one that, you know, I think it was pretty much on its way out anyway. It's fairly dried up, but you know, it made some marks on the page. And again, I just hit it with a wash of watercolor. And again, you know, it holds up fairly well. It doesn't dissolve and run and bleed all over the place. So, you know, again, that's one that I probably would take with me, you know, out in the field to work with, right? And then there's my go-to in just about all things, and that's Prismacolor Pencils. So, you know, this is just pencil line, and I put down a tone, and then I put a wash over it. And I went back in with a brush, just a dry brush, and I lifted out, you know, areas in the skin tones. You know, so again, you know, I'm just kind of playing with manipulating, you know, the color over it. But again, you know, it's one of those medias, you don't have to worry about it dissolving. You know, now it doesn't make as strong a line as, say, a pen, right? But still, you know, you still have a line there. And you can work with it, you know, pretty easily. This is a watercolor I did this last Sunday. And, you know, it was done on a block, you know, watercolor block. And again, you know, I sketched it out with that very same sepia Prismacolor.
What weight paper is that?
This one's probably like 160 pound, you know, but it's on a block. You know, it's here, hang on one second. Let me go get it. Okay. So stop the share for a moment. Okay. So here's the block of paper, and this is the cover. It's is it Krasner? No, it's not. It's can everybody see this?
Yes.
It's called Fluid 100.
And what pound is that?
100% cotton thin sheets, 300 pounds.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
You
So,
always do that. You always use the high quality paper.
I generally, yeah. If I'm going to use watercolor sketch pads, things like that, I want to get at least 160 pounds
Okay.
or higher, so that I don't have to worry about it buckling and wrinkling. Now I got like three different. I went down to Binders. They were having a teacher's kind of like open house, and the sales reps for this company was down there, and they were selling these, and I bought 3 of them. And I bought they come in 3 different like textures, and this is the smoother of the textures, and then I've got one that's really rough, you know, again 300 pound, And I like both of them. The thing is, you don't get like a lot of sheets. You only get like 10 sheets in this. And this pad was probably like $40.
Oh, that's very expensive.
Huh?
That's expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you're a professional. I buy the 140.
Yeah. You know, I think the key is if you're going to buy watercolor, buy it in a block. Don't buy just the sketch pads that you can kind of flip the pages. Buy the blocks that are glued on the edge so that you can just use them and then take them off. Now, this is the piece that I did, okay? You know, and it's, you know, again, it's on that very same paper. But, you know, I like the way that the paper takes the color, and you can work with it and manipulate it and move it around. And you don't have to worry about the paper, like, you know, doing what they call pelling, you know, where it starts, like, you get little bits of paper coming off. You know, I haven't had any problems with these in doing that. The only critical thing I would say about the paper itself is that it forces you to really put down like a lot of pigment because it's like as the pigment, you know, saturates the paper and stuff, it tends to get kind of light and kind of soft. So if you want dark, bold colors, you really have to lay some pigment down on there to get it to stay. So
I've used block pads, and you told me you can get them on Amazon, different sizes.
Yeah.
And different weights. So if you wanted to try it, but the one problem I have with the block, when you get toward the bottom, it seems like the glue or resin or whatever holds it around the sides.
Yeah.
And here it's hard to get the separation.
Right. Well, and that's where a metal palette knife comes in.
That's what I'm using, right?
Right. Yeah. Now I tend to use a palette knife rather than trying to use like an X-Acto knife blade or something like that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, because I've tried taking them off with an X-Acto knife blade and cut through the paper.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that was my first experience.
Yeah, that's a little bit frustrating. You got a nice watercolor there, and all of a sudden it's like you got this big cut through it, you know, because your knife went.
But that's my only objection to the block. Yeah, that's my only objection to the block is the residue when you get to the bottom of the pad.
Yeah, it gets a little harder to remove them, you know,
Right.
from each other. But still, you know, I mean, for the fact that you don't have to stretch it and wet it, and glue,
Correct.
I mean, yeah,
Right.
I can deal with it, you know. But
It's almost like a rubber cement that you can sort of pull it off then at the edges and things. So.
yeah, it's a gum type, binding or strip that they use on it, and you know, and it's fine. I mean, it works really well. You know, it does what it's designed to do. You just have to be patient and, you know, carefully take a sheet off, you know.
Yes.
You know,
But it is great to prevent the curling and paper.
Yeah, and you know, if you and you know, in Naomi's case, you know, there's really nothing wrong with using 140 pound, you know, or less watercolor paper, as long
as your voice sound weird.
We're all breaking up, Charles.
Yeah,
up?
Your voice sound weird.
Okay. Well, yeah, it said that my internet connection was unstable. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yes.
John, what pound paper do you use?
But color?
John, what pound paper, watercolor paper do you use?
Well, I use a white or an off-white. I don't use a tinted normally. I usually just do like 140.
You do?
Right.
Okay.
But I have done higher as well. But for my basics, I usually just do 140.
Yeah, and there's, I mean, there's a lot of good pads of watercolor paper out there, at 140 pound that are not that expensive. I mean, like
Right.
I said, this 300-pound stuff, this is pretty costly,
Yeah.
but I figured, okay, I'll try it.
Well, you're a pro, so, you're in a different category,
Well,
but just for us, we're still learning. 140 we could kind of fool around with.
yeah, again,
I've gone up to about 190. If that's what the highest I've gone.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and each company will have a slightly different weight of watercolor paper.
Yes.
And just because it's 140 pound, 140 pound Strathmore is a lot different than, say, a pad by Cotman.
Yes. Yeah. And it depends, like I said, if it's 100% cotton or if it's I don't know what they call it, a blend or whatever they call it. But
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can buy pads of mixed media paper and use it as a watercolor medium.
Yeah, I've done that too. Yes.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, the important thing is, you don't go spending a lot of money at first. Buy small pads and work with them for a little while. See which pads of paper and what types of paper you really like and give you kind of the results that you're looking for, and buy that. Stay with that. Because
I like the mixed media because it seems to be just that little bit smoother finish, not as toothy.
Right. Yeah, and again, it's like everybody's a little bit different. Some people like a rough watercolor paper. Some people like a very smooth. In doing watercolor, generally, if I were going to work in watercolor all the time, I wouldn't even get stuff on a pad. I'd get that double weight watercolor board and work on it, again, because you don't have to stretch it.
Right.
And it's archival, and, it takes a lot of abuse, before it really starts falling apart on you. So, that's just something that I've worked with for almost ever now, and I just like it. I just like it as a product. It's hard to find now, though. You really got to go search the art stores, and a lot of times they won't even carry it. They'll have to order it for you. But
it seems like with the pandemic that art supplies have gotten either more in demand or less available, and more expensive.
Yeah, like food and everything else.
Right, like everything.
Yeah, everything is going up because it's costing more to get food.
Right.
And it takes longer. So, but as far as that watercolor board, it's probably been 10 years since I bought any of it. But when I would buy it, I'd buy like 20 or 25 sheets, and it comes in. I want to say it's like a 40 by 60 sheet, and then I would cut it down, into the sizes that I wanted. So, so I had plenty of it. I've still got probably a few sheets, down in the flat files, and I'll get around to using those one day, So, anyway, getting back to, okay, because I want to go through this fairly quickly. So yeah, this is a little thing I did Sunday.
Is this color pencil or what?
Well, I used the colored pencil to do the sketch, and then I used watercolor over it. And then I used colored pencil to go back and clean up some of the edges.
I never have done watercolor, so I don't know.
Yeah. Have you done acrylic?
Yeah, acrylic. Yeah, I like acrylic because it's easy to clean the brushes.
Yeah.
Like it better than oil.
Yeah, well, watercolor is a lot easier than even acrylic, you know, as far as cleaning up. But, you know, it's a little different to work with. And I'm going to talk about using acrylic like watercolor, because that was something that I did for years. When a client wanted a watercolor look, you know, I would use that Strathmore board that I was talking about, and I'd do my line drawing, and then I'd lay the color down in acrylic, but I would use it very thin so that it looked like watercolor. And
acrylic, I learned in the hard way, and acrylic I have to be careful that the brush be dry, not with water when I'm gonna use it, and then the color run.
yeah, but sometimes you want the color to run.
Yeah.
See, if you're trying to make it look like watercolor, having things kind of puddle and drip, and you know, I mean, that's just kind of the nature of watercolor. So, yeah, sometimes you want that, you know, sometimes you may not. Now, I think I showed you guys this. This was something I did when I was at Valley. Went down by the river.
Right, I remember that. But this is a different one that you showed something, isn't it?
Well, I showed you this one, and I showed you this one. Yeah, the guy in the.
Okay.
Yeah, I did 2 of them out there that day. That was fun. Now, in doing, you know, I showed you like, well, here, let's go. Yeah. So we'll start here. So, you know, I went to a sketch group, and I was using that gray paper, and it's a mixed media paper. And I was using like a China white and a sepia colored watercolor. And, you know, so I was just doing these little sketches with like a fine brush. And, you know, so these are gestures, like little 2-minute, 3-minute gestures. And again, I don't often use watercolor this way, but I was playing with it. I was experimenting with it. This is a 5-minute. And, you know, you can get down, you know, really a pretty good, you know, block in a short amount of time, you know, using, you know, that process.
So the line work, is that just watercolor you said, or did you use a pen?
Yeah, I used watercolor, and then I went back in with a Prismacolor pencil later and added some tone because, and I think I did this later in the session when we were kind of on a break, because I wanted to kind of push that elbow back, and I didn't have enough value in there. And by that time, I had undone my mixture of, you know, that I had put together to make that dark. So,
Yeah.
and then this was the long painting, you know, from that night. And, you know, again, it's on
beautiful. That is beautiful.
Yeah, I call that overworked, actually. You know, it's just, yeah, it's a little too kind of, yeah, didn't really do a lot for me. I wasn't really happy with that. Because I just kind of went overboard and overworked it. And
Now there again is the line work, the Prisma?
no, it was originally the you know, the watercolor
Oh, okay.
with a pen.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's really any Prismacolor on here. And I think it's all just that you know, the watercolor. And again, you know, I just mixed up. I mixed up a big puddle of dark that was made out of kind of like reds and greens and probably purple to make almost like a black.
Yes.
You know, and I mixed that in a big puddle on my palette, and I used like a really fine line watercolor brush to sketch it out. let's see. So wanted to show you this. This is that same watercolor paper, and this is what we call puddling, you know, or dropping color into color. And so I put down just a big wash of clear water, and then I started just dropping color into it, and then letting it sort of diffuse. And this is really one of the beautiful things about watercolor, is that you can get these really nice transitions of color, you know, in working really wet like that. And that's really kind of where the fun comes in with watercolor, because you can play with it and really manipulate it, do a lot of different stuff with it. And, you know, just like any other kind of paint, really what you're looking at is not so much the color as the value, and how you're going to change the value, you know, lighter or darker, that and your intensity. So anyhow, I just put those together as kind of a little demonstration. So again, you know, I've got 3 videos. One of them is a little bit longer, but the other 2 are fairly short. And so I want to play those for you. And again, these artists are very, very different, you know, in how they approach, you know, using this medium. And, you know, just kind of take a look, see what you think. The first one I'll play is kind of a Zen type experience. There's not a lot of talking or anything in it. It's you're just watching, you know, how they approach it. But this is definitely what you would call a wet into wet technique. Okay, so that's what we're going to start with. And so we'll start off loose and wild and crazy, and then we'll go to a little bit tighter and controlled. Now notice that's on a block, by the way. You can see the gummed edge at the top.
That's interesting that he's doing it right from the tube.
Yeah. Yeah, I you know, and I watched this, and it's kind of fun, you know. Now I don't know whether he had like a preconceived idea of what he was going to actually do beforehand. You know, whether he had done any studies or anything, but you know, just watching the working process, and this was, you know, kind of fun. And it's a very sort of intuitive way of working, I think. The other thing that, you know, in watching him work is he uses a lot of brushes that are not watercolor brushes, you know, that are actually sort of made for like acrylic. So a little bit stiffer, like that is a watercolor brush that he's using right now. But the brush that he was using previously is really, you know, made for acrylic.
Too bad Jean's not here. This is sort of like what she's been doing lately.
And I'll notice that he's using a fan brush. It's really kind of made for acrylic or oil.
Is that a flower?
No,
Oh,
but it can be if you want it to be. You can make it anything you want, Armando.
you know, I tried to figure out what is in your mind.
Well, wasn't in my mind, it's in his.
Oh, you are not the one doing it. Okay, okay, I get it.
No, I'm not doing it.
Actually, I saw the fingers now. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh, we are only 4.
All 4 of us.
I don't see the lady, Miss Bernice, Miss Claudia, Miss
Wow.
Wanda.
No, we're missing a lot of people.
Yeah, the lady who's doing the children book,
Rebecca?
Rebecca, yes. Bunch of people missing.
Yeah. That's what I was saying earlier. We're in the middle of spring break. You know, kids are home from school, stuff. People are traveling, going on vacation, stuff like that. So there's, who knows what's going on. You know, we're missing Bob too. Bob's not here.
Yeah, Bob. Well, June,
Come
Dylan.
See there, he's picking up color with a little bit of a paper towel. And you can see he's got that paper really saturated with water right now. My guess is that he's sprinkling like alcohol or something into it to get that resist. And see, now it's dried. So what's it looking like now, Armando?
It's like a tree,
Ah, there you go.
but I don't know why he put so many colors over and over.
Well, kind of created a background.
Uh-huh.
See how all that is a lot softer than the tree he's painting now?
So in watercolor, you don't put a base like we do with acrylic and oil, that we put a base on the whole canvas, and then watercolor is different. I don't know. I never done watercolor.
Yeah, you don't put a tone or anything down.
Tony, yes. And he's not using a brush. He uses like a pen. Oh no, it's a very
It is
thin brush.
brush.
Oh. Let's see.
Yeah, at first he just used paint out of the tube, and he put some down on the paper that was wet, and then spread it around. It kind of makes that abstract sort of background, very off shape. Ah, must be alcohol then. Excuse me. Now see, he's lifting out some of the color with a paper towel.
Can you do that with acrylic? Use a paper towel to do that?
It would be hard to, because acrylic dries so quickly. I mean, as long as it's wet, yeah. But you have to kind of like put it down and then almost like immediately lift areas with the paper towel. Because if it stays, if the acrylic stays on there more than a few minutes, it begins to set up to dry. So now he's using some kind of white, opaque, like China white or something along the lines of that. And you notice how it's almost like immediately fading in to the background. He's taking and like tapping the brush, getting it to spatter a bit. That time. So real quick, I'm going to stop it right here. And what do you think about that? Do you like it? Don't like it?
You know, I just look like a tree in the winter with no leaves.
Okay. Naomi,
I
you
like,
got,
I
okay.
like the way you got the technique thing. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
Good. Yeah. Is it something that you guys would be interested in trying to do, or play
I
with?
am. Things are already going into my head about what to do.
Okay. Good. Good. Yeah. I mean, I kind of like. I like the end result of how it all kind of emerged and developed, and there's this nice play of sort of the sharper, tighter lines against the things that are faded and back in the background, and it's a kind of a fun approach to it. And like you, John, I'm thinking about other ways that I could possibly use it.
Yeah.
It's a good video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A good video.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting approach. So anyhow, let's let him finish here. There you go.
The Lucy drawing tool is an improved version of the classic camera lucida that has been used by artists and old masters.
Okay. Let's stop sharing. And then I want to close that. I want to get to the next piece. Okay. So again, kind of following that same theme. This is a looser, kind of more less controlled wet into wet approach. And it's a non-representational painting. It's an abstract. But again, I think if you watch the development of this, it's an interesting way of working. So
Deborah Lynn Rosenbach.
yeah, Rosen. Yeah, Deborah Lynn. Yeah, Rosenbach, I guess. Is her name.
Hi everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Deborah Lynn and today I'm completing an illustrated piece. I'm going to be using Fabriano Artistico 100% on paper.
Can you increase the volume at all?
It is on gum block. This paper that comes on this gum block is I have a little bit of a defect that they need to work on. The gum that runs around the edge of this block is not very good. It always comes loose. I've had of these before, and it happens to every single one of them. So I don't mind it. I continue to buy it because I know I can pop off the piece of paper and work with the paper without it even being on the block, and it handles the water perfectly for me. Anyway, the way I disperse the water and stuff, I always have a flat piece of paper, and I don't have rippling, and I don't need to tape anything down, and I don't need to stretch, and I don't need to do all those things. So it's a winner for me. And plus, they make it an extra white. If I don't like the more traditional white, I like the brighter white because I'm doing all these flowers. I'm looking for vibrancy. So the pure white, bright white bounces off of these pigments wonderfully. Now I'm using Magello Mission Gold paint here, very highly pigmented. I know they had some color fast problems years ago, I think, but they have since then resolved all that. So really, really fabulous paints, love them. I'm doing a wet on dry here. The paper is not wet. The only place it's wet is where I'm dropping the pigment right now, okay? And I'm doing that technique this time because I am looking to retain spaces of white. I'm going to do this wash here with this peacock blue, and it's gorgeous color. Absolutely love this color. It's just so beautiful. And I'm just dropping in water and just kind of making a wash and letting the paint take me on a journey. That's what intuitive watercolor is all about. It is in no way are you the ringleader and going to be in charge. You need to think of yourself as secondary, and you're going to let the pigments take you on a journey. And then of course you're going to kind of coat some of the pigments the way you want it. But for the most part, you're going to be following the direction of the pigment. So it's going to be a hard one for you to kind of copy. When it comes to doing intuitive, that's the whole idea, is for you to become more one-on-one with the pigment and the waters yourself and creating your own art. What I want you to get from this video is my thinking and how I'm processing things and why am I doing certain things. When you take all those things that you might find in my videos, kind of put them all together and go create art. Please try not to go from website to website trying to copy all these tutorials. You're never going to find your style. You're going to be so confused. And it's better to just take the information in, then just sit at your desk and create something yourself. Become one with the pigments and the paper and the brush and everything, and just let it direct you. That's the beauty of watercolor. It has a mind of its own, and all you have to do is follow it. All you have to do is follow that watercolor. So now I threw down some beautiful olive green. I love olive green, especially with my flowers. It bounces so nicely with the other vibrant colors. It just pairs so beautifully. It's not, sometimes I'll use like Cascade Green and Undersea Green from Danielle Smith, and I love them. They're gorgeous, but for this abstract intuitive piece, I'm going bold. So I threw down some water also into the pigment, and that created some small little spots on the paper, which I want to see. There you go. I want to see movement. I want to see dimension. I want to see things happening, not surface level. I want to see several levels. So if you're painting and it's just one level, it's going to be kind of flat. It's not going to draw the attention as something that's got more going on. So think about that. If you painted something and you're like, oh, well, I like it one level. Well, okay, yeah, you can like it at one level. I like it at one level right now too. But if you keep building on those levels, you're going to have a much more dramatic piece. But I guess as you start to paint, you'll start probably your earlier moments of painting, you'll probably be doing one level, and then you'll start building up to more and more levels and learning how to add all those things. It all takes time. It all takes time. Whenever you're comfortable, that's when you start adding in those different levels. Now I'm going in and I'm just dropping in some permanent yellow light. I just want to brighten up the painting. I feel like every one of my florals that I do, I love to bring in a bright sunny yellow. It just brings that sunshine into the painting. So you'll usually always find a yellow in my painting. It's just a happy color. Now I'm contemplating, what should I do? What should I do? I'm thinking I'm just going to use the color right next to the peacock blue, and I just grabbed the cobalt blue number 1. And I'm dropping that in to see what I think, and I love it. And what this is,
Well, there you go.
I think Charles went to get his breakfast.
Mhm. It will be a light breakfast. It's
Hold
11.
on. Have one of these Generac PowerCell home batteries, you could be at risk of losing power this summer. This is the Generac home battery, which is charged by my solar panels. If the power grid goes out, this will flip. Allow me to keep the lights on and certain appliances running while my neighbors are left in the dark. My name is Ben, and I'm the Chief Sales Officer here at Power Home Solar. And as you can see, I practice what I preach because I know how crucial it is to protect my home and family from the unreliable power grid in storm seasons. Listen to this. Through this new program, we're installing one of these Generac PowerCell home batteries and solar panels on qualified customers' homes at no cost at install and paying them over $2,039 on our clean energy bonus after install. There has never been a better time to go solar and potentially save thousands of dollars. Now, if you click the link below,
Okay.
and see it.
Skip ads, please.
you
Okay.
guys. Now, what you could do is you could just have the peacock blue down and maybe make levels by removing some pigment once it's down, or even taking a brush and picking up some pigment there too, and creating different.
Hey, guys.
There's no share.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know what happened there. Huh. All right, let's try this again. When did it go off? I went down
It
to...
just, yeah, it just glitched and turned off completely. Then it came back on.
Okay. All right, well...
But again, we saw your background, but we couldn't hear the share.
Right, yeah. I had gone down to get a cup of coffee, and then that Generac thing kicked in. Ads on YouTube. Wow. Okay, can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll back it up just a little bit. And
Hello. It just brings that sunshine into the painting. So you'll usually always find a yellow in my painting. It's just a happy color.
Can you enlarge the screen, full screen?
yeah, I can. There we go. All right.
Yep.
Yeah. Armando
I'm
must be going out
contemplating,
fixing lunch.
What should I do? What should I do?
Man, I'm listening to you.
I'm thinking I'm just going to use the color right next to the peacock blue, and I just grabbed the cobalt blue number 1. And I'm just adding in to see what I think, and I love it. And what this is also doing, you guys, now what you could do is you could just have the peacock blue down and maybe make levels by removing some pigment once it's down, or even taking a brush and picking up some pigment there too, and creating different levels that way. But I wanted to drop in a another blue. It just, sometimes it just adds more interest. So that's what you're seeing. I'm just throwing in that cobalt blue number 1. And now I picked up the piece of paper and I'm letting everything kind of just flow just a little bit. Everything seems to be going more in a downward motion with this intuitive piece. I'm just kind of studying everything, watching what's happening, trying to figure out what should I do next. And I have my liner, a script liner. It's just a master's touch, didn't cost me much. It's just one of their little cheapy brushes, but it's got this long, you know, very long with the brush and skinny, and it's fabulous. Can't complain, Hobby Lobby. Now I'm just like making some like branch-like tendrils. I want movement, of course, going kind of downward. So that's what I'm bringing those little kind of willowy kind of branches in. They're not anything specific. They're really honestly just from my imagination. I'm not copying anything in any way. A lot of my art is all just from my imagination. I make a lot of made up looking flowers. I'm trying to figure out what to do with that area there. It's just a big open space and I've got to do something. So I'm creating some different blues. I got a blue and some yellow, and it makes this really kind of murky looking green. I thought, let me try some. I'll stick some more blue in here and see if I can doctor it up a little bit more, and it really doesn't help it much more. So I really don't use much of this mixture. It just kind of came out kind of flat and boring. I use just a little bit of it. And by using that little liner there, if you drag it a certain way, you can actually make like a leaf like that. And it keeps everything really loose. You don't want anything looking like it's contrived to look just like a leaf and just giving the illusion that it might be a leaf.
If you're looking to learn watercolor painting, we've got a report for you. It has over 25.
I'm just going in with some olive green and making some leaves and some branches. Downward, I'm thinking a lot of downward motion. I need a name for this painting. If you guys think of one, leave it in the comments. I hate when that happens. You're working on your little masterpiece and something flies on the top of your painting like a paintbrush and rolls into the paint. It didn't do any damage, but I don't like when that happens. So I'm kind of filling in that area there because it was kind of bugging me. And I'm trying to, as I'm working, I'm trying to assess what am I going to do with that area. Now I'm going in with some cobalt blue and I'm dropping that into the back, kind of so it looks like there's something in the back shadows, putting in some depth there. And a little bit of toilet paper work there. Painting would not be a double end painting without a little bit of toilet paper, huh? Okay, so now I'm going to do some mark making. I really like this, what I started doing. I might have to do this in a few more of my paintings. I think it turned out kind of cool. We'll kind of build off this whole idea. I do get a little bit crazy with it, you know, when you're doing a good thing and you just don't know how to stop. Well, yeah, I kind of did that here moving forward. You'll see, and then I end up having to correct my eagerness to overwork something. You think we're on to something good, but then it just kind of, you need to learn how to stop. And sometimes I think we're having so much fun painting, and like I found that idea and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And you just keep flying with it and you just don't know how to stop because it's too much fun. But then you got to figure out how am I gonna fix this. So there I go. I'm still having fun. I don't have a problem with it right there. I don't have a problem with it at the bottom or in the middle there. It's when I move to the next section right now. That's when I start going too far. And I know it. I know it right now. And then I start doing this, thinking, oh, what if I did this? Well, that just looks stupid. So, but I keep doing it. But I keep doing it. And I know I'm making it look stupid, but I know I can correct it. So I'm just checking to see what it looks like. And it doesn't look good. It's going to get corrected. I'm getting frustrated too. I can tell by my marks. Getting mad at myself, I think, is what I was doing. Not getting mad at the painting, I'm getting mad at myself for doing that. Now I'm going in with the Mission Gold orange. Now, I'm going to be very careful with the orange because when the orange mixes with the blue or the green, it's going to get kind of murky. It's not going to look vibrant. It's going to get kind of brown. So I don't want to touch that orange much. I want to retain the vibrancy of that orange. So that means no touchy, no touchy. So I'm just putting my paintbrush down, although it's like got a bunch of paint on it. I'm going to put it down and move on to the next thing and let that color kind of set a little bit. Oh, let's go work into this area where I was doing dingy things. Oh, now let's make a crosshatch. Now I've done that crosshatch thing before, and that's cool. That's fun, but I'm just at this point. I'm just being stuck on stupid right now. And I'm just going to get my paintbrush wet, clean it really well, or I think I'm cleaning it well. Remember all the paint that's on there? Oh, let's just transfer it. You gotta learn how to work when you're screwing things up. You gotta know how to correct it. Look at how murky it got. Look at how chalky and murky it got. Right there, you guys. That is bleed-proof white being worked with pigment and water. It gets really gross really fast, gets gray, dingy, dirty looking. So because I put some bleed-proof white down there and then I started moving the pigment and adding water, it got murky and ugly. So just know that when you're working with that stuff, you've got to be very, very careful about your pigments after that's down. And please, please, I'm begging you guys, make sure that you have several containers, keeping your paintbrush super clean of the Dr. P.H. Martin Bleed Proof White, because if you put that in your paint tray, you're going to have contamination and you're going to have all this chalky stuff all over the tops of your paints, and then you're going to wonder, why are my paints looking dead? Well, because you got a lot of bleed-proof white mixed with it, and nothing's going to be vibrant. Everything's going to be dead looking, and you're going to have to go put your palette in running water and clean them. Just clean them, or just be very careful and have several. I have 3 containers of water, so I'm always making sure that things stay as clean as possible. Now I'm going in and I am dropping in, what am I dropping in? I'm dropping in.
Hey,
It's Daniel again.
now if you've ever up a brush,
Vermilion, okay? And it's a red, but it's a red with orange in it, and it's really, really beautiful. So I'm dropping that vermilion in and the orange between the two. I think there's orange there right now. And those 2 colors together are harmonizing beautifully and playing off each other. And the vermilion is a little bit more opaque. The orange is pretty opaque also. So they're playing together really nice. Nobody's fighting the other one. And just a little bit more work here with the leaves. They get a little bit too bold there, so I'm going to have to get some TP paper and to shoo that off a little bit. See how it's just, I'm overworking that side right now, and I know that I have done that, and although I like it, I know that I have to remove some of it. You know what? I really like how the water, soap, and Dr. P.H. Martin makes a more of a bouquet, kind of watercolor kind of bouquet effect versus the little round circles that you guys can do by scrubbing it off or dropping in little round dots from like some kind of like, I don't know, to create circles. It just seems a little bit too contrived. I like the more natural watercolor kind of effect bouquet that you see up in that top left area. I think that just turned out so beautiful in that peacock blue. And now I'm going in with the permanent yellow light, just brightening things up. Very, very light and bright that color is. Just dropping in some little dots. And this is just like a little made up little something in the background. Not sure what it is. And that flower, I have to figure out what I'm going to do with that. And then I'm dropping some more of that yellow over on the other side. I'm kind of balancing things out. So I'm kind of placing it sporadically in different areas. So it's just not in one area, because if that yellow was just in one area, then it just is sitting in that one area. And just the eye is not traveling around to find it again. So I want my eye to travel around and see it again. Oh, there it is again. There's that color again. Oh, you know, it makes it more interesting. Do I talk a lot, you guys? I'm not really known to talk a lot, but maybe I'm talking a lot.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to fast forward on this a little bit so that we have enough time to see the other video, because it's about 40, I think 42 minutes.
So slightly. I'm so messy when I paint. Are you guys messy when you paint too? Are you
I don't know, Naomi. Are you messy when you paint?
Sometimes I have paint that I have on the walls that I have to.
Am I messy? Oh my God.
Splash.
It's so sad. And you know, it's all more paint is on my clothes than on the painting.
Yeah.
Going down. Doing a downward flicking motion, which kind of gives
That's
it
why I can't do oil,
straight
because I would ruin my house and my car and everything.
brush and kind of whip it towards the wrist. Gives me long white strips.
Yeah, I kind of worry about putting toilet paper down on like a really
And I
wet
went
sheet
in and I grabbed
because water,
some
you
of
know,
the water
toilet
that
paper
was starting to really,
tends to fall
sit
apart
there.
real quick.
and I don't want to do that for too long because then it's just gonna make them up. I'm trying to.
Hey, Charles,
Yeah.
before you go, we have to
Now I put in
touch bases about tomorrow.
there.
Okay. What do you want to know about
Doing
tomorrow?
that, it's kind of moving that yellow forward.
Well, it's gonna be raining until about 10 a.m.
Which
And
is
then
when
we're
the class
gonna-
starts.
Yeah, we're gonna meet in that part. I know they have a kind of big gazebo there in that part, yes.
Yeah.
So,
Where are you going to be tomorrow?
We're going to be at Morgan Falls.
Morgan Falls is where? It's or just Morgan Falls Road, you go to the end?
Yeah. Yeah. The park.
oh,
Okay, Morgan's Falls Park.
Yeah.
yeah.
And you start at 10.
And now I'm really gonna.
Yeah.
start
That's when the
layering,
class
you know,
starts.
I've got the permanent yellow background. I've got the permanent yellow deep on the top level, and I'm just building that up. And I'm just putting in. I think that's actual orange. That
Where are you going to be next Thursday?
Well, you guys, that's my painting. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. In the meantime, be safe, be well, and God bless. And join me over there.
That's a good question.
You don't know?
Yeah, well, I sent it out to everybody.
I didn't get it. Could you?
Well, I sent it out to everybody who signed up for the class.
Okay, could you send it to me?
To you? Yes,
Yeah.
I can send it to you as well. Okay.
I'm a maybe.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm a maybe.
You're a maybe?
A maybe. Maybe I'll be there, maybe I won't, but I have my own easel. So,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, everybody else will. That's kind of how we're doing it this time. But yeah, we're gonna meet at like I said, I'll be out there probably around about 8:30, you know, setting up. You know, and I'm gonna start at 10 because there's a lot of stuff I need to cover tomorrow in that about, you know, I'm gonna bring some different plein air boxes for people to look at and, you know, kind of show you how they set up and how you can use them. And then of course I'll have some acrylic paint with me tomorrow. So you know, that's pretty much what I'm going to be using during the what 10-12 weeks, you know, that we're doing this. So
Charles, remind them to bring a container with water.
okay, Armando, bring a container with water. There's your reminder. Write a post-it note, stick it on your mirror. in the morning, that way you know. Okay. Let's see, how are we doing time-wise? You know, we're not gonna have time to
Comment. I have a comment on this last one.
Yeah.
She took the page off the block before she started.
She did. Yeah. Yeah, because she said she didn't like the gum part and how it would let go at some points. And, you know, okay. But, you know, again, you know, she said she never really had any problem with that particular paper buckling and wrinkling on her.
All right, that's I was surprised because it was pretty wet.
It was very wet. But again, you know, I think it was probably like 300-pound paper.
Okay, right.
And so, you know, it will hold its shape pretty well. But yeah, she had an interesting, you know, kind of way of approaching the painting. And then using the Dr. Martens white, you know, that she had on a jar and she kept kind of thinned down. You know, I saw her drop that into like some areas of color a couple of times and then go back and lift it off. And she was commenting how, you know, how that dulled the color down and made it
Right.
muddy.
Right.
So it's like, okay, if you know it does that, then why use it?
Why do it?
Yeah, I don't know. She was, you know, I mean, watching her work and stuff, she had kind of an interesting process. You know, I'm not familiar with her work, so I really don't know what, you know, most of her work looks like. But again, you know, I think as an exercise, you know, just doing like intuitive kind of playing with color and not necessarily really trying to create a particular image or anything like that can sometimes be valuable in the sense that it gives you some freedom to experiment, you know, and play with, you know, how colors interact with each other. And the interesting thing about watercolor, and you don't get this in acrylic, is that some of the colors actually resist each other, you know, in watercolor. It's like, you know, you might put a red down next to a blue. Some of those will kind of fuse together and make an intermediate mixture, where others will actually take the color that was previously there and push it, you know, push it out of the way, because they don't intermix very well. And that's one of the effects about watercolor that in many ways, you know, I really like, you know, because you get familiar, you know, with using the color, you know, in that palette, and you know how they react, and you can get some really nice effects with stuff like that. So if you've got watercolor, I would encourage you to play with it, experiment with it. I will say that my experience with watercolor is that the paper probably makes a good 60 to 70% of the difference in how.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, you can use rather inexpensive watercolor and come out and get really good results if you have good paper.
Right. Yep.
And you can take the best quality watercolor in the world and use a poor quality paper and really make a piece of trash out of it. So
that's true.
Yeah. It really watercolor all comes down to the paper, you know, and that's pretty much so it, you know, that's the key thing. Now, neither of these artists, you know, took any time to sketch or draw anything out. You know, they pretty much so went and worked, you know, directly on the surface, you know, of the paper. And I had a video that I was going to show, but it's too long, and we'll save that for a different day. And, you know, he has a little more of a methodical method where, you know, he'll sketch or draw out, you know, his composition and then go back in and, you know, begin to build and add color.
This last one is like, she had no idea. It's like, let me do something and see where that goes, and where should I go next?
Right. Well, that's why it was called intuitive.
Oh, okay.
Because that's what it is. You know, it's, yeah. You know, you're beginning somewhere, and she didn't have a clear picture in her mind of what she was creating.
Not at all.
And again, there's nothing really wrong with that approach. You can come out with some beautiful things.
Yes.
But you have to kind of approach it from, you know, this is an experiment. It may work, it may not. You know, you may get, you know, some things that you really like, but overall the piece doesn't work real well. And at that point, you know, that's where you take those kind of failed experiments, and
Yes.
you cut them up and you do collage and things like that. You know, I was looking at an article the other day. They were talking about an artist by the name of Lee Krasner. Lee, who was a female artist in New York back in kind of, you know, the early pop art and abstract expressionist movement. And she was I believe Lee was sort of the partner of Jackson Pollock. Anybody know who Jackson Pollock is?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know, he did drip and spatter painting.
Yep.
Anyway, later in life, you know, Lee Krasner had a lot of paintings that, you know, she, you know, didn't really like the outcome of, and you know, so she took them and she unstretched them, and she cut them up into little pieces, and started doing the sort of collage abstract paintings, and actually, you know, did some nice work that way. You know, created a lot of really nice paintings. So, you know, even when something fails, you know, there may be part of it that you might want to save and
Yes.
incorporate into something else. So, you know, it's you know, there's always these little jewels, you know, of, you know, any painting that you're doing. And you know, even if you think that the whole painting as a whole, you know, failed, you don't have to throw it away. And you know, you can always take it and repurpose it, you know, upcycle it, as I say, into something else, you know, make another piece of art with it. So, but, and that, you know, that takes you in a whole totally different direction, because then you're doing, you know, mixed media pieces, and, you know, there's nothing wrong with that either. So anyhow, anybody got any questions? Anything we need to talk about before we go away today? Armando's going to get an early jump on lunch.
Well, they don't eat goat, so I'll be eating goat tomorrow.
You'll be eating what tomorrow?
Goat.
Goat?
Yes.
G-O-A-T?
Goat. Yes.
Okay. All right. You're cooking goat?
Y'all don't eat goat. So
Actually, I've eaten goat. You know, it's mole.
oh, yeah, Mexican style, yeah.
Yeah. It was actually pretty good. So
Yeah.
you know, it's not my go-to, but you know, it's like, okay, yeah, it's, you can, you know, it's another kind of meat. So Naomi, did Naomi? No, she's here. Naomi.
She's mute. She muted herself.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, she's not talking to us now. All right. Anyway, so we're gonna wrap this up. Armando,
All have fun tomorrow.
yeah. Yeah.
Are you coming, John? Are you coming?
No.
So we're gonna be only what, 2 or 3?
So have fun for me.
Yeah, we will. Okay, and you know, we'll be back here Friday morning, you know, drawing again.
Right.
So hopefully we'll see some of you then. Okay?
Hopefully. Okay. Take care all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See y'all tomorrow.